I, Meng Shao of the human race, denounce the heavenly god general of the heavenly race. He slaughtered the men and humiliated the women of my race. The immortal gods are unfair. Heavenly ancestor, please uphold justice for us. 13th Heaven. In the heavenly race hall, the gods gathered. Silencio was listening to the immortals report the recent battle situation of the heavenly race on the ground. The famous race and demon race joined forces, causing the attacks of the heavenly race to be blocked. At this moment, Silencio suddenly heard Meng Zhao's voice. He frowned. He wasn't the only one. The other immortals also heard it. The Buzhou Divine Mountain was Pangu's backbone. It connected the heavens and the earth. Meng Zhao's voice was conveyed to the 33rd heaven. The heavenly troops reporting became softer and softer. He also heard Meng Zhao's voice and felt the strange atmosphere in the hall. The heavenly soldier looked up at Silencio. Silencio waved his hand gently, and the heavenly soldier immediately bowed and left. Send for the heavenly god general, Silencio said expressionlessly. The current him was already the heavenly ancestor. His cultivation was even a pseudo-sage, looking mighty. An immortal god immediately went to find the heavenly god general. Not long after, the heavenly god general arrived. He knelt in the hall and bowed to Silencio. Fang Liang and the divine general also came. The heavenly god general was one of the 3 divine generals of the heavenly court in the past. Fang Liang was also the heavenly emperor, so he naturally came. The heavenly god general said in a low voice, Heavenly ancestor, this person is slandering me. I've never been to the human race. He was very angry. Meng Zhao's accusation had embarrassed him. Oh? Someone is pretending to be you? Silencio asked. The immortals counted with their fingers and could deduce that Meng Zhao's family had indeed been slaughtered. However, they couldn't guess who had done it. They guessed that the other party had used a special Dharma treasure to isolate deductions. The heavenly god general gritted his teeth and said, I'm not sure. I'm willing to investigate. After the heavenly Tao restarted, the immortal world lacked order. The heavenly race was a heavenly Tao race and was high and mighty. Many immortals and gods had acted recklessly. However, Silencio couldn't be bothered to bicker with them. It was too troublesome. However, the situation was different now. Meng Shao was shouting at the top of the Buzhou Divine Mountain. The mighty figures of the other heavens had probably heard it. Perhaps the sages had also heard it. If this matter was not resolved properly, it would definitely affect the heavenly race. An old immortal stood up and said, Heavenly ancestor, according to what I know, a heavenly general under the heavenly god general has indeed descended into the mortal world in the last 1,000 years and gone to the human race recently. Who? Silencio asked. The heavenly god general seemed to have thought of something and his expression changed drastically. He looked up and kept winking at the old immortal. The old immortal ignored him and continued, Heart refinement heavenly general. Heart refinement heavenly general. The immortals were in an uproar. Silencio frowned. The heavenly god general said angrily, I was the one who arranged for heart refinement heavenly general to go to the human race. The human race he went to was harmed by the dragon race. He went to protect the human race. The old immortal chuckled and slowly retreated, rejoining the group of literature immortals. The divine general frowned and stared at the heavenly god general. Really? Really? The heavenly god general gritted his teeth. He paused for a moment and continued, If the heavenly ancestor insists on blaming me, it can only be considered my negligence. I gave the villain a chance to scheme. I'm willing to bear the responsibility. Fang Liang teased him. Heart refinement heavenly general's father is an elder of the Jia school. He has also heard of a sage preaching and can be considered a disciple of theirs. Is the heavenly god general afraid of offending him? Jia school elder. disciple of a sage. What the heart refinement heavenly general had done could be said to have torn apart the dark side of the heavenly race. He wasn't the only person who had done evil, nor was he the person with the greatest sins. Silencio frowned. He secretly regretted it. All these years, he had been busy dealing with the demons and taking in all the races in the immortal world, ignoring the rules. Along the way, Silencio only knew that strength was the key. I am willing to shoulder this responsibility alone, the heavenly god general said in a low voice. Unlike Silencio, he didn't have the hidden sex support and couldn't offend the heart refinement heavenly general. Furthermore, the heart refinement heavenly general had also fought for many benefits for him. Silencio's expression darkened as he fell into deep thought. Fang Liang said, now that the immortal world is flourishing and hundreds of schools are preaching, the sage sects have already begun to talk about rules and morals. Our heavenly race is the leader of the myriad races. How can we not set the heavenly rules? This matter might be a good opportunity for the creation of the heavenly rules. Heavenly Ancestor, you must severely punish the heart refinement heavenly general as a warning. Many immortals immediately agreed to his suggestion. Silencio looked at Fang Liang in surprise. Fang Liang had a solemn expression. The heavenly god general said in a low voice, Vice Patriarch, I was really the one who did this. I was just trying to be lucky and didn't admit it. The divine general had a disappointed expression as he said, Heavenly god general, you've disappointed me too much. If this is true, you will be my enemy from now on. Don't forget, I'm from the human race. Human race? Hee, you're in the heavenly race now. The heavenly god general looked at the divine general disdainfully and mocked him. Many immortals in the hall looked at the divine general with hostility. Most of the immortals of the heavenly race were humans before the calamity, but they were already part of the heavenly race now. The divine general's words were equivalent to the officials of the current dynasty speaking for the previous dynasty. It was a huge taboo. For a time, the hall was divided into two factions and began to bicker. The heavenly race has indeed hidden too many sins. It's time to sweep them clean. Hee, how? Back then, you fought the demons and the aftermath of the battle killed hundreds of thousands of people. Is that considered a sin? That's right. It's fine if we want to set the heavenly rules. We shouldn't dwell on past issues. Otherwise, the heavenly race will definitely be in chaos. It's just a matter of position. The heavenly race has yet to truly rule the immortal world. Establish heavenly rules? Ridiculous. Is the famous race listening? Are the demons listening? Are the sage sects listening? It's indeed not a good time. Let's wait a little longer. The Jia school is behind the heart refinement heavenly general. Silencio frowned in frustration. He suddenly realized that the heavenly race, which seemed to be under his control, was not united. The immortal emperors of the hidden sects shut up and did not take sides. They all knew that Fang Liang was Hanju's grand disciple. Silencio and Hanju's identities had yet to be exposed. Under such circumstances, they were more willing to support Fang Liang. Silencio said, we have to call Meng Shao up first. We'll listen to him and see if it's the heavenly god general's doing. The moment he spoke, the immortals quietened down. Silencio glanced around and said, Dragon General, fetch Meng Shao. Wait, let the divine general go. Fang Liang suddenly interrupted. He glanced at the divine general, who immediately moved. In the past, Silencio was Fang Liang's subordinate. Now the tables had turned. How could they be united? Before long, the divine general brought Meng Shao into the hall. This was the first time Meng Shao faced a group of gods, but he was not afraid. He walked to the heavenly god general's side and sized him up. The heavenly god general knelt in the center of the hall, clearly related to his accusation. However, he was disappointed. This was not the heavenly god general he knew. Did this god slaughter your race? Ji Xianshan asked. Meng Shao shook his head. No, it's the heavenly god general. He's the heavenly god general. Impossible. The heavenly god general I saw controlled the heavenly fire. Meng Shao retorted, and his eyes instantly reddened. He thought that the immortal gods had found a scapegoat to cover up this matter. However, this was a blood feud. How could he let it go? Ji Xianshan had no choice but to summon the heart refinement heavenly general. The immortals were watching. This matter had to be dealt with openly. 5 minutes later, the heart refinement heavenly general arrived. He was burly and bare-chested. A golden crescent iron ring floated behind him. It was surrounded by flames, like a fire god. The heart refinement heavenly general knelt down and bowed, not even looking at Meng Shao. It's you. Meng Shao gritted his teeth as he looked at the heart refinement heavenly general, wishing he could tear him into pieces. However, he did not lose his mind. He wasn't the heart refinement heavenly general's match. If he attacked rashly, the latter would take the opportunity to kill him. Wouldn't that give the immortal gods a chance? In Meng Zhao's opinion, the immortals were all evil. This person's name is Meng Shao. He accused you of slaughtering his family. Is that true? Ji Xianshan asked expressionlessly. The heart refinement heavenly general denied it. How is that possible? I saved his family under the demon's noses. I was even injured because of this. He turned to look at Meng Shao with a disappointed expression. Mortal, why are you slandering me? It's you. You still want to deny it? Meng Shao almost died of anger. His injuries were affected and blood flowed down his dry lips. Give up. You can't accuse me successfully. You're dead. I won't let you go. The words of the heart refinement heavenly general entered Meng Zhao's ears. He was extremely arrogant, but Meng Shao discovered that the other immortals were indifferent. Voice transmission. Meng Shao fell into despair. Could it be that his hatred could not be avenged? At this moment, Fang Liang raised his hand and took out a jade slip. I have a treasure. If I absorb Meng Zhao's and the heart refinement heavenly general's blood, it can show their karma. We will know if it's true or not. Whoosh! The immortals were in an uproar. They didn't expect Fang Liang to be so firm. He wanted to challenge Ji Xianshan. Ji Xianshan clearly did not want to blow this matter up, but Fang Liang wanted to. The heart refinement heavenly general's expression turned extremely ugly. He stared at Fang Liang, not understanding when he had offended this low-profile heavenly race vice leader. Meng Shao looked at Fang Liang in surprise. He didn't expect the heavenly race to have a kind immortal god. Ji Xianshan sent a voice transmission to Fang Liang. What's wrong with you? This matter can't be blown up. Otherwise, how can the heavenly race maintain our reputation? Besides, the background of the heart refinement heavenly general is not simple. Fang Liang pretended not to hear and said, Patriarch, the heavenly race controls the immortal gods. The immortal gods are not only powerful, but they also have a responsibility. The heavenly Tao has been restarted for 100,000 years. It's time to set up the heavenly rules. Even if this matter gets to the sages, they won't object. The difference between good and evil was established when the Tao ancestor taught the Tao. This is also the basic rule of the heavenly Tao. If the immortal gods ignore good and evil, they are ignoring the heavenly Tao. Hearing this, Ji Xianshan's face turned ashen. Fang Liang really wanted to go against him. The hall was silent. The immortals did not dare to interrupt. After a long while, an immortal emperor of the hidden sect said, Patriarch, let the vice leader investigate. The moment he spoke, the other immortals of the hidden sect agreed. Ji Xianshen's expression turned even uglier. He couldn't take it lying down. In the Taoist temple of the 100-peak immortal river, Hanju cultivated for another 10 years. He opened his eyes and read the emails. He discovered that nothing major had happened in his circle of friends recently, so he looked outside the immortal world. He first looked at the Holy Mother sect. The Holy Mother sect developed very well. Liao became a boss who did not do anything. She was in seclusion all year round. As the Holy Mother sect grew stronger, the Providence helped increase Liao's cultivation level. She became stronger and stronger. Hanju looked at Hanyu next. Hanyu wasn't at Buzhou Divine Mountain, but at the 13th heaven. Hanju counted with his fingers with a strange expression. It turned out that Ji Xianshen and Fang Liang had fallen out because of Meng Zhao's tragic case. For example, the internal affairs of the heavenly race were in chaos. The immortals were divided into two factions, arguing about whether to punish the heart refinement heavenly general. Li Daokong suddenly brought Hanyu to the sky and expressed his support for Meng Shao, hoping that the heavenly race could seek justice for him. Before this, Meng Shao was restricted to a palace in the heavenly race and was tortured, but he did not lower his head. Li Daokong's arrival freed Meng Shao from torture. Hanju had no intention of interfering. The humans were no longer part of the heavenly Dao race. There were even worse situations than Meng Shao. Such an encounter was nothing. He could understand Ji Xianshen, who cared more about power and authority. However, he was a little disappointed. Ji Xianshen seemed to have lost his bottom line. At the same time, he had his own opinions about Fang Liang. Fang Liang had been enduring for so many years. He suddenly acted not only because of his good intentions. He was probably trying to build momentum for the Dao ancestor, who would eventually return to participate in the game of the heavenly Dao. If Fang Liang successfully avenged Meng Shao, his name would definitely shake the immortal world. The humans would all submit to him, and it would even affect the other races. If the rules of good and evil could be established, the heavenly Dao would truly embark on the right path. Clearly, Fang Liang had already obtained Li Daokong's support. Although Li Daokong was arrogant, he favored the humans because he was once the eldest disciple of the human race. Hanju pinched his fingers to deduce and discovered that the sage behind the heart refinement heavenly general's father was Sect Master Tianju. Sect Master Tianju lived outside the 33rd heaven. He didn't seem to know about this and didn't interfere. It seemed that the heavenly race was about to undergo a drastic change. Hanju shook his head and closed his eyes to cultivate again. Fang Liang stood above the righteous cause and obtained the support of most living beings. 5 years later, Ji Xianshen lowered his head and severely punished the heart refinement heavenly general. He executed the heavenly punishment and released Meng Shao. This matter caused all living beings to cheer. I, Fang Liang, have inherited the Dao ancestor's legacy. I'm willing to follow the will of the Dao ancestor and reconstruct the rules of the heavenly Dao, restoring order to the murky world. All living beings believe in good and punish evil severely. I'm willing to cultivate for the peace of the heavenly Dao and establish the heavenly Dao. All living beings can enter the heavenly Dao and expel your sins. Fang Liang's voice suddenly resounded through the myriad worlds. A vast and immense heavenly Dao merit descended into the 13th heaven. Hanju opened his eyes and sighed. Good move, good kid. As expected of the Dao ancestor. He deduced that the reason why Meng Zhao's matter had blown up was that Fang Liang had secretly added fuel to the fire. Just as this matter ended, Fang Liang had established the heavenly Dao and his providence had reached its peak. On the heavenly Dao Providence board, Fang Liang entered the top 10 from the top 1,000. After establishing the heavenly Dao, what would Fang Liang do next? At this moment, Li Xianao came to visit him. Hanju let him in. After entering the temple, Li Xianao knelt in front of him and said, "Sect Master, the heavenly race has changed. Ji Xianshan and Fang Liang have broken up. Who should the hidden sect support?" Hanju asked, "Who do you think you should support?" Li Xianao said in a low voice, "Fang Liang is your grand disciple and Li Daokang supports him. Fang Liang is reasonable in this matter, so we should support him, but Fang Liang is using the Dao ancestor's name and is a little rebellious. Is he still a member of the hidden sect?" Hanju smiled faintly. "Then, do you want me to support Ji Xianshan?" Ji Xianshan has no bottom line. He's numb and heartless. I suggest that you support another hidden sect disciple and fight for the position of heavenly ancestor. Li Xianao took a deep breath and spoke seriously. He knew that he had crossed the line, but if he wanted to be Hanju's strategist, he had to dare to raise his opinion. Otherwise, what could he do? Run errands? Send messages? After Li Xianao voiced his suggestion, he was very nervous. Hanju said, "That makes sense. Then, who do you think is better to support?" Li Xianao replied, "Of course, it will be up to you to decide." Hanju fell into deep thought. Li Xianao felt that it was about time and immediately bowed and left. Hanju smiled. This fellow was really good at knowing his own status. What he said was indeed reasonable. Be it Ji Xianshan or Fang Liang, they were no longer suitable to be his pawns. However, there was no need to be anxious about this matter. If he asked Ji Xianshan to give up the position of heavenly ancestor now, he would definitely disagree. Then, Hanju closed his eyes and continued cultivating. After reaching the Freedom Realm, he still had to work hard and strive to reach the Great Tao Sage Realm as soon as possible. Then, it would be the Great Tao Supreme and Tao Creator. Even the powerful Tao ancestor would be plotted against by the mighty figures of the deity realm of the Ruins of End. Even if he was as strong as the Tao ancestor, Hanju didn't feel safe, so he could only surpass him. Time passed. The heavenly race's internal strife caused the immortal world to also begin to stir. To some ambitious mighty figures, this was a perfect opportunity. The demons could catch a breather again. Previously, they had to face the pincer attack of the heavenly race and the Jia school. They were torn apart and struggling at death's door. Now, they finally had a chance to escape the situation and develop their forces again. The sages didn't seem to be interested in this internal strife. Sect Master Tianju even specially invited the cultivators of the world to listen to the Tao outside the 33rd heaven. Just like that, another 1,000 years passed. On this day, the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial was successfully nurtured. Hanju teleported to the second Tao field and released it. The heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial had a burly figure. Its body was black and white. It had a dragon head and a human body. It had 4 wings on its back and had a sinister expression. As it breathed, it emitted a scorching aura. This was a chaotic Fiend Celestial. It looked more terrifying than any living being in the world. The newly born chaotic Fiend Celestial already had the strength of a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. When the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial saw Hanju, he immediately knelt down and cupped his fists. Hanju smiled. "In the future, you will stay here and cultivate. Don't fight with others. You are all of the same lineage, understand?" "Understood." The heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial replied with a hoarse and deep voice. Because of the creation spirit stone, he listened to him. Hanju waved his hand and gestured for him to leave. After walking out of the Taoist temple, the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial and Dongjua met. The two of them did not greet each other, and the atmosphere was a little strange. Han Tua, who had been watching from the Taoist temple, couldn't help but ask, Father, who is he? The heavenly constellation Fian Celestial's aura was truly terrifying. He had never encountered such a terrifying aura, making him feel as if he was facing his natural enemy. Don't ask. Cultivate well, Hanju said indifferently. He asked the system, can you separate the simulation trial and let the living beings in the second arena obtain the authority to enter the simulation trial alone without meeting the living beings in the main Dao field? Activating the simulation trial function of the second Dao field. Successful activation. Hanju smiled. That was more like it. The chaotic fiend celestials were inherently warlike. When the number of chaotic fiend celestials increased, they would all meditate in seclusion. It was almost impossible. Hanju had to let them unleash their fighting desire. Han Tuo curled his lips when he heard Hanju's words. Humph, I'll nurture a powerful force that belongs to me sooner or later. Han Tuo thought silently. Before he acknowledged Hanju, he had heard that the hidden sect was unfathomable and had many experts. He also wanted to be like Hanju, high and mighty. He didn't need to do anything personally. Hanju looked at Yangdu and the other fiend celestial candidates. They were still developing well. He was still most concerned about Yangdu. Apart from his identity as a reincarnator, Yangdu's status in the Earth Immortal Worlds universe was also extremely high. He was already the #1 war god in the galaxy. Yangdu did not develop his own faction. He had always been alone and would not enjoy himself usually. He was always cultivating. His temperament was not bad. Hanju thought in satisfaction. He couldn't use Yangdu for the time being, so he didn't contact him. He returned to the 100 Peak Immortal River. He was the only one in the Taoist temple. After the strange deity returned, he wandered outside the Taoist temple and rarely returned, so he was very quiet most of the time. Hanju sat on the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus and took out the Book of Misfortune. Taking a deep breath, he rubbed the surface of the Book of Misfortune affectionately. How many years have I not used you? The current Book of Misfortune was already a freedom numinous treasure. In the immortal world, it was the strongest Dharma treasure. His first target was the chaotic deity. Hanju began to curse the chaotic deity. This fellow had developed hatred towards him. He could see the portrait in interpersonal relationships, so Hanju could easily let the Book of Misfortune capture the chaotic deity. 5 days later, Hanju's lifespan began to decrease. Every second, he lost 100 million years. 10 billion years. 100 billion years. A trillion years. 10 trillion years. 20 trillion years. Hanju's lifespan decreased rapidly. Looking at the absurdly long number on his attributes list moving gradually, he was still a little shocked. However, this was normal. The chaotic deity was a great Tao divine spirit. His lifespan continued to decrease. 50 trillion years. 100 trillion years. 200 trillion years. 300 trillion years. Hanju's hand began to tremble. This fellow was too ruthless. He didn't even curse successfully. Hanju wanted to admit defeat. Should he give up? No. He had to be close. Let's hit a quadrillion years first. A huge meteor floated in the void and murky darkness. On the meteor was a mighty black shadow meditating. It was the chaotic deity. The chaotic deity was surrounded by an ancient and mysterious black aura. It was difficult to tell its true body. He suddenly opened his eyes. A pair of cold eyes appeared in the black chi as if they could see through time and fate. Who's cursing me? I can't even deduce it? The chaotic deity muttered to himself. He pinched his fingers to deduce. He could only deduce a book and not the person who used it. This curse was very strong. The chaotic deity first thought of the cursed fiend Celestial, but it had not been born since the death of Pangu, who split the heavens. The curse power was still strengthening. The chaotic deity had no choice but to use his dermic powers to resist the curse. At this moment, the curse power suddenly increased. Previously, if it was described as a stream, it was now as violent as a torrent. It was unstoppable. How can this be? Shocked, the chaotic deity began to resist with all his might. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at his attributes panel. 700 trillion years. 800 trillion years. 900 trillion years. Damn it! If breaking a quadrillion years was not enough, Hanju would directly give up. In front of him, other than his attributes panel and emails, there was no information about the chaotic deity. When Hanju's lifespan was deducted to more than 980 trillion years, he finally saw an email. Almost instantly, he stopped. Because of your curse, your enemy, the chaotic deity, has a chaotic Tao heart and the power of order has weakened. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. As expected of the great Tao divine spirit, such a crazy curse only made his Tao heart chaotic. Even his mental demons did not appear. Hanju began to rest. Several days later, he recovered. He took out the Book of Misfortune and started cursing Kundi. None of the mighty figures in the deity realm of the ruins of End could escape. 5 days later, Hanju's lifespan decreased again. He also opened his attributes panel and emails and stared at them. He did not believe that this guy was stronger than the chaotic deity. The chaotic deity controlled the chaotic order. It sounded stronger than Kundi. In the deity realm of the ruins of End, dark clouds surged. Above the endless wasteland stood a straight mountain. The top of the mountain shone with golden light. It was a dazzling temple. Spirit Mountain, Thunderclap Monastery. At the top of Thunderclap Monastery, 2 white-haired Taoists were meditating side by side, each sitting on a lotus throne. One of the dignified Taoists opened his eyes and frowned. Strange, I'm being cursed. He was Kundi. The other Taoist was called Jiayin. Kundi and Jiayin had assimilated after the creation of the world. They were as close as brothers. Later, they established the Western sect together, which was also the predecessor of the Buddhist sect. They had always followed the Tao together and could not be differentiated. Jiayin asked, "Have you deduced it?" Kundi shook his head. "I can't deduce it. I can only deduce a book." "A book?" Jiayin frowned. They were great Tao sages. After being cursed, they actually could not deduce the other party's existence. In other words, the other party was very likely stronger than them. Wait, a book? Could it be the Dark Forbidden Lord of the Immortal World? Kundi frowned. He had heard Choshilai mention the Dark Forbidden Lord. Jiayin said, "Isn't the Dark Forbidden Lord Limuyi or the sect master of the hidden sect? Limuyi is already dead. He can only be the sect master of the hidden sect?" Kundi said, "Is he that strong? Although he's a variable that the Tao ancestor has determined, he can't be stronger than us, right?" That makes sense. He has never admitted that he's the Dark Forbidden Lord. He even said that he has been cursed before. In that case, the Dark Forbidden Lord should be from the deity realm of the ruins of End. In that case, his actions in the previous calamity were to destroy the heavenly Tao. Oh? You mean that the Dark Forbidden Lord is among the other great Tao sages in the deity realm of the ruins of End? That's right. I really can't figure out why the Dark Forbidden Lord was in the previous calamity of the heavenly Tao. Kundi fell into deep thought. He felt that Jiayin's words made sense. Jiayin changed the topic. If the Dark Forbidden Lord wants to destroy the Heavenly Tao and the sect master of the hidden sect protects it. Kundi did not reply. He felt that Hanju couldn't escape suspicion. 5 days later, Kundi's expression changed as he said in surprise, "Oh no! The curse has strengthened. How can it be so powerful?" He began to circulate his energy to resist. Jiayin frowned. If the curse alone could injure Kundi, how strong was the Dark Forbidden Lord? Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju didn't know that he was being suspected. He was cursing with all his might. 100 trillion years. 200 trillion years. 300 trillion years. 500 trillion years. Because of your curse, your enemy Kundi's Tao heart was damaged. RCUIR and Hanju immediately stopped. That's it? He was really far inferior to the chaotic deity. Hanju rested again. Next, he planned to target the immortal world and confuse the deity realm of the ruins of N's mighty figures. The next day, he began to curse the heavenly Tao sages, cursing them for a day each. It couldn't be helped. If he cursed for 5 days, these sages might directly collapse. Hanju jumped to the 33rd heaven and came to the Universal Hall. He sent a voice transmission to all the other sages. The door to the Universal Hall opened. Hanju walked into the hall, and Heavenly Venerate Xiandu asked in surprise, "Fellow Taoist Han, what is it?" Hanju didn't say anything. The divine light covered his body, preventing Heavenly Venerate Xiandu from seeing his expression. Not long after, the other sages arrived. They were uneasy. This was the first time Hanju summoned them. Did something happen again? "Who's cursing me?" Hanju said in a low voice. A violent pressure descended and enveloped the entire hall, startling all the sages. The south extreme Heavenly Venerate hurriedly said, "Fellow Taoist Han, you were also cursed?" "Me too." The other sages all echoed him. "I've also been cursed for a day." Why were we all cursed? Someone must be acting. Could it be because of the Dark Sage King? It's possible. Fellow Taoist Fuxishan has already died. There's one less Heavenly Tao Sage. We can't panic. The sages were also furious. They had all been cursed by a mysterious curse and were extremely unhappy. Hanju glanced at Emperor Shao. This fellow had pretended to be the Dark Forbidden Lord before. Emperor Shao was also very angry. He was really the best actor. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said, "Fellow Taoist Han, we were all cursed. We can't panic at this juncture. Don't you think it's too coincidental? We were cursed the moment we killed the Dark Sage King." Hanju retracted his aura and said, "I hope it's not you guys. The Heavenly Tao is in trouble. You asked me to help. I have a clear conscience towards you and the Heavenly Tao. I just want to cultivate well. If you provoke me, don't blame me for not showing mercy." With that, he disappeared. The sages' expressions were ugly. Hanju was really not giving them face, but they didn't dare to retort. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu scanned them and said, "I hope fellow Taoist Han is wrong. The current Heavenly Tao needs our help. Don't ruin things for your own schemes." The sages nodded. They were all guessing who was cursing behind his back. He even dared to curse Hanju. If they didn't fight side by side earlier, with Hanju's personality, he might have directly killed them. The sages shivered. Heavenly Venerate Wufa added, "That's right. If we sages break up with Hanju, who will benefit the most?" Heavenly Venerate Xiandu sighed. "It seems that we have to contact the deity realm of the ruins of End and investigate the background of the Dark Sage King. The Dark Forbidden Lord is famous for his curses. The previous calamity disturbed the situation and caused the Heavenly Tao to collapse. It had no choice but to restart. Now, It's sweeping over again. We have to be careful. The Heavenly Tao can't withstand a second restart. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du looked at Qiushilai. The other sages were the same. In the previous calamity, Sage Fated Secrets had used the Tao Destruction mystical power to eliminate all living beings, causing the providence of the Heavenly Tao to be directly severed at the waist. Now, only Qiushilai knew the Tao Destruction mystical power. If Qiushilai betrayed them, he was afraid. Qiushilai snorted. Don't look at me like that. I won't act recklessly. Soon, the sages dispersed. The arrival of the Dark Forbidden Lord cast a shadow on their hearts. After returning to the 100-peak Immortal River, Hanju sat on the 36th grade Reincarnation World Destruction Black Lotus and heaved a sigh of relief. His acting was amazing. Hanju planned to curse after a while. This curse session consumed more than 1.5 quadrillion years of his lifespan. Although he had an octillion years of lifespan, it was indeed very draining. It seems that it's still too difficult to use the Book of Misfortune to curse the Great Tao Sages and Great Tao Divine Spirits to death. I can only think of a way to let them fight among themselves. Hanju thought silently. No matter what, he felt that he had already done the details very well. There was no need to be anxious. Time passed and thin rivers flowed. The 26 mighty figures could forget about living well. Hanju closed his eyes and entered his cultivation state again. On the other side, Ninth Heaven. Fang Liang walked into the numinous palace and looked at the already desolate palace. He sighed endlessly. Li Daokong, Han Yu, the Divine General, and Meng Shao followed closely behind. Many immortals stood outside the hall. They were all under Fang Liang. Li Daokong frowned. It was unknown what he was thinking. Fang Liang turned around and looked at Han Yu. He smiled and said, "Young friend Han Yu, do you want to enter my heavenly Tao as a deity?" Han Yu looked too similar to Hanju. He had calculated that this kid was Han Tuo's descendant and might have Hanju supporting him from behind. Han Yu turned to look at Li Daokong. Li Daokong was his master and he listened to him. All these years, he had really learned something. He worshipped Li Daokong to the extreme. Master is really powerful. Li Daokong said, "Fang Liang, you created your own heavenly Tao and even used the Tao ancestor as your name. Whose side are you on now?" Fang Liang was silent. The Divine General did not interrupt. He was following Fang Liang, anyway. Humph! Li Daokong snorted and left. Han Yu hurriedly followed. Fang Liang did not ask him to stay. He had chosen his own path. The person he respected the most was still Hanju, but he didn't want to stay under him because too many disciples were more outstanding than him and were more favored by Hanju. If he wanted to stand at the peak of the immortal world, he had to walk his own path. Furthermore, he didn't want to rely on the power of the hidden sect. He wanted to nurture a force that belonged to him. The Divine General said, "Will offending the hidden sect?" Fang Liang said, "Not really. In the future, I will think of a way to repair the relationship between the heavenly Tao and the hidden sect." The Divine General nodded and did not say anything else. He could no longer see through Fang Liang, but he knew that if not for him, he wouldn't be here. The Divine General understood and immediately went to make arrangements. Above the sea of clouds, Li Daokong rode on a cloud with a dark expression. Han Yu held back the entire way and couldn't help but ask, "Master, isn't it a good thing that Heavenly Emperor Feng stood up for Meng Shao? I heard that the hidden sect supported many factions. It's not considered betraying the hidden sect for Heavenly Emperor Feng to create the Heavenly Tao, right?" Li Daokong snorted. He was extremely dissatisfied with Fang Liang. If not for his support along with the immortals of the hidden sect, would Ji Xianshan have admitted defeat? However, Just as he made Ji Xianshan bow his head, Fang Liang announced his independence. Wasn't he offending them? In the future, you are not allowed to interact with heavenly Tao disciples. If you are discovered, I will directly expel you from the sect. Li Daokong said coldly, scaring Han Yu so much that he hurriedly agreed. Han Yu looked like Han Zhu. Ji Xianshan and Fang Liang would definitely think of a way to rope him in. Li Daokong glanced at Han Yu, not knowing what Han Zhu's attitude was. However, he believed that Han Zhu was definitely paying attention to Han Yu. Otherwise, when the Han family was wiped out back then, Han Zhu wouldn't have acted. Han Yu thought that his master was angry. He smiled apologetically and started to please him. Li Daokong enjoyed it as if Han Zhu was fawning on him, causing his rock-like Dao heart to jump in joy. Back then, he really wanted to take Han Zhu as his disciple. In the blink of an eye, 2,000 years passed. Han Zhu opened his eyes and started to preach the Tao to the hidden sect disciples. The hidden sect disciples had yet to react when his Tao voice sounded. The disciples in all corners of the 100-peak immortal river entered a state of epiphany. It was extremely magical. 100 years passed quickly. Almost all the disciples had broken through, including Tao Sovereign, who was at the front. ISO after the lecture, Han Zhu came to the second Tao field. Han Tuo was already at the 6th mystic divine origin realm and was only a step away from the zenith heaven golden immortal realm. Han Zhu prepared to help him reach the zenith heaven realm and then kick him out to prevent this fellow from exposing the fiend celestial force he was nurturing. Without waiting for Han Tuo to open his eyes, Han Zhu directly preached the Tao to him and guided him to reach the zenith heaven realm. 300 years later, Han Tuo successfully broke through to the zenith heaven golden immortal realm and was reborn. Before he could react, he was sucked into Han Zhu's sleeve. Han Zhu returned to the main Tao field and threw Han Tuo out of the 100-peak immortal river. After landing, Han Tuo opened his eyes and looked at the 100-peak immortal river. He was stunned and immediately understood. Back then, Han Tuo thought of the scene when he came to visit the hidden sect a long time ago. Things were really different now. This was the second time he had been chased away, but this time, he was grateful. He didn't blame Han Zhu. He chose to walk his own path. Han Zhu was already taking great care of him by helping him reach the zenith heaven realm. Han Tuo knelt down and kowtowed, then turned around and left. Under the Fusong tree, the black-held chicken clicked its tongue in wonder. Master's son is already at the zenith heaven realm? He's really not simple. The other personal disciples opened their eyes and looked at Han Tuo outside the 100-peak immortal river with different expressions.